Another last key that I'll give you guys before we kind of go to like a break here. Okay. And I'm just going to give you guys some keys on when we're going to talk about the secret weapon. We're going to talk about a couple of different fun things. Okay. But get down into your notes. Okay. That a lot of managers won't tell you all, but I will. Another big key to success, I think, is this. And that is that I would, and let me actually pull this up for you all so you can actually see a visual of it. Okay. But, I would stick with people that you know for as long as humanly possible. Okay, I would stick with people that you know personally for as long as humanly possible. Okay, here's why. By the time that you start seeing, like, I want you to have a lot of recommendations built up, and I want you to have a lot of confidence built up. Okay, I want to set all of you all up for long-term success with this position. So you're able to have a freaking wild summer, in this role, and not just a cool job for a week or two. In fact, I don't even let you guys call recommendations. Okay, until number one, you have, like, my rule is that you have at least 100 recommendations to call, and that you have your closing, okay, and your recommendation approach memorized. So you have your closing and recommendation approach, down. I won't even call it memorized, but because you have it in front of you now, but you have it down packed, okay, and you have at least 100 recommendations. By the way, why is that my rule? Why is that the rule? Rule B, guys, that I want to see y'all for some long-term success. Meaning, by the time that y'all call recommendations, I want you guys to have so many recommendations. Like, I want you guys to be so confident. I want you to have already gotten, multiple presentations, multiple sales, multiple no sales out of the way, and feel really, really confident. Again, I want to see you guys up for I want you to have a lot of recommendations built up and a lot of confidence built up. So, I'm going to walk you all through something here called the 4 gears of Cutco. And this is kind of like the 4 different gears of people that you can show when you are doing the presentation. Okay. So, and I would kind of write these down. Number 1. Okay. First gear of Cutco is are people that you can call to do presentations with is friends and family. Friends and family. Okay. Then it's acquaintances, then it's directories and associations, then it's recommendations. So first categories first. Okay, gear number 1. Friends and family. How many do you guys think most people have in that category in terms of appointments they can do? Friends and family.
25 to 50.
25 to 50. Cool. Any other thoughts? I would say, honestly, guys, most people, it's like 15 to 20, maybe 10 to 20. It varies, right? So I'd say, 10% of you all, like, the most common guys, you got like maybe 10 to 20 people show that are close friends and family. Okay, that aren't like weird, distant. 10 to 20 is most people. Some of you all have much bigger friend networks or big families, like mom and dad, like grandparents got busy, and you have lots of aunts and uncles, and they all have kids and cousins. Some of you all have very small families. Like some of you all, your friends and family, it's a very tight knit circle, and it lasted like this weekend. Like you had a couple appointments this weekend, you're already done. Most people have enough friends and family to go last for their whole fast start. Some people have friends and family, they can last in their first month or 2 on the job, and they never have to see anyone else other than friends and family. Okay, that's category number 1. Everyone's in a different spot for that. Now, regardless of where you're in for category number 1, then there's category 2, which, like, of them or they know of you, like an acquaintance. Okay, how many people, and some of y'all, might have thought some of these people were in this category. How many people do you think are in that category for the average person? Yeah, like a
Probably
ton.
doubled.
Yeah, like hundreds. Like the question is not even like how many do I have? The question is just like, hey, how many do I have phone numbers to call? Like, everyone, it doesn't matter where you grew up, how old you are, how social you are. Everyone, okay, has big lists 2 and 3. The question is just like, am I actually tapped into them? Do I actually have those phone numbers? you know. And when I was, I'll tell you guys what, that assignment that you did in training, where you kind of worked on getting some more phone numbers and came into the second day of training with it. Most reps work on that for an hour their first night and will never do it again. When I was a sales rep, I'll tell you what, I can tell you Jonathan was the same way. Jealous is the same way. Like I would constantly be doing that. Like I was doing that all the time, that little exercise. Like I was always adding more phone numbers to my list. I was always like anyone that I thought I could do an appointment with, I was always adding people to my list of like potential prospects. And because the reason is I still have people to this day that I could have sold to. Like whenever I go back up to Jupiter, which is originally where I'm from, and that's where I started selling Cutco. Like every once in a while, I'll be up there for like a weekend, and this happened just the other day, where not this like it was not the other day, but it was probably like about a year ago, and I was in Publix. And I remember like some lady kind of came up to me and she goes, and this is some lady that I had sold Cutco to in the past. And she goes, Andrew? And I'm like, hi. And she's like, oh, Mrs. I don't even remember her name at the top of my head, but and she goes, she runs up to me in the store and she goes, Andrew, those knives you sold me? And I'm like, oh shoot. And she's like, they are so freaking sharp. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I thought it was gonna be something bad at first or something. And she's like, yeah, they're so sharp. I was like, I still cut myself to this day. Like they're still, even my uncle, I remember I sold him Cutco, and it was funny too, because my uncle, like, he was one of those people that like bought from me, but he made me feel bad why he did it. Like he like bought from me, but he just likes to like just give me a hard time for everything. So it was one of those, all right, I guess we're gonna buy from you, Drew. You're really hurting us in this one. Like, yeah, just take my whole paycheck while you're at it. Like, we're not gonna be able to afford our bills, but here's your knives. Sure, I'll buy from you. I was like, damn. I was like, you don't have to buy it if you don't want. I'm like, you can just, He's like, no, I'll buy it. It was like that kind of sale. I was like, damn it, like you're not even making me feel good selling it to me. Anyways, he gave me the hardest time of my appointments. This dude, like to this day, it's like I feel like it's been 10 years since I did a presentation with him. 10 years. I just had a wedding up in Connecticut and I went up there and visited him. And it's like the first thing he says to me every single time he sees me is something about Cutco knives and how good they are. Literally to this day, he's like, hey, Drew, those knives, you sold me, like they're still sharp. I'm like, I know. That's kind of how that is, I know. That's how it works. Okay. And here's the thing too. The reason that I'm getting at this is because I have people back this day, that I go back to Jupiter, Florida, and there's still lots of people that I never ended up selling to. I still could have seen, I had a neighbor literally down my cul-de-sac that I could have seen that, I know could have been an easy homemaker signature complete sale and never sold to him. I never saw Chase Sanders' parents. I never saw my one of my ex-girlfriend's parents. There's tons of people that I could have seen that I just never ended up getting around to seeing. Okay. And, the reality is that you always have more people to show Cutco to. But list 2 and 3, so this is acquaintances, and the third list is like directories or associations, means like things you're a part of, but you don't necessarily know the people inside of them. Like a good example of that would be like church. Like you might not know everyone that goes to your church, but you do kind of have an association to them because you go to the same church as them. And the fourth recommendation, okay, the fourth gear is called a recommendation. And you want to be careful because a real recommendation, guys, is someone that you do not know. They do not know you. There's no relationship there at all. You've never met each other before. Okay. Outside of that fact that that person has just recommended you. Now, a lot of you all have gotten recommendations like from your customers this weekend, but they're really recommendations that are more like acquaintances. They're like, they kind of gave you, like when your friends and family recommend you to people, they oftentimes recommend you to people that are basically acquaintances because you kind of know of them. They kind of know of you. It's still kind of distant. It's still kind of close circles, where they have an idea of who you are to begin with. So this is called the 4 gears for a reason. Has anyone in here ever driven a manual car before? Stick shift? Rowan, you strike me as the stick shift guy. I got a guy. All right, just Antonia. All right. So, look, when you drive a stick shift,
I actually learned.
You cut out. What'd you learn?
I actually learned to drive with a stick shift.
Okay, nice. Yeah, same. So did I. So your dad taught you well. Here's something to think about. Okay, it's like it's driving a stick shift car. When you drive a stick shift car, do you just go first to fourth gear? No. What will happen if you do that? Yeah, your car is going to break down.
Break the transmission.
Yeah, your car's breaking down, and you're going to be replacing that transmission. You're going to be shifting back to first gear to get it done the right way. So here's the thing, guys. This is like your Cutco car. If you want to go far, if you want to go long, if you want to drive fast, you got to shift the gears the right way. Okay, the worst thing you can do is shift from first gear to fourth gear. Let me see people that are super freaking easy to see, and then go from that to seeing like complete 180 to people I do not know it. Like, let me see people who I'm really close with to people I do not know at all whatsoever, never met them before. Okay, the proper way to do it is you want to shift through the gear, like go through each gear in order. And I'll be careful here because recommendations, a lot of you all have recommendations, people that were recommended to you, but they're more like in these two categories. So here's where I'm going with this, okay? Here's what you want to get down in your notes. Everyone has big lists, gear 2 and gear number 3. The question is, do you have the phone numbers? And the second question is, are you willing to call those people? We oftentimes call those like the chicken list. Okay. And the chicken list. And the reason we call them the chicken list is because those are the people you get a little chicken to call. Okay. Another good name for them is the nah list. Okay. The nah list, because those are the people you have on the Vector Impact app, right? It has the task management. And you're like, all right, I'll call this person. I'll call this person. I'll call this person. And then, you go to the next one. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay. We all have those people. All right. And so here's my high flyer tip for you all. If you want to get something down into your notes, this is my tip for you all. Number 1. Okay. Here's a tip is don't be chicken. Do not be chicken. I know that sounds simple. Okay. But don't be chicken. Because what's the worst thing that happens, by the way?
You get rejected.
Yeah. The worst thing that happens is they say no. Or what's even worse than them saying no is they say no and they're super rude. They say no with a couple other choice, words inside of there and that are, a little vulgar at you. That really is the worst thing that happens, right? They say no and they're really, really rude. Okay. And by the way, guess what? If that did happen, they go, oh my gosh, Rowan, how freaking dare you call me and ask me for help with something that you're working on? Delete my number and never call me ever again. Like if they actually said something like that to you, like, holy shit, well, now you know how they really feel, like, and this is what we often call, another name for it is the wedding list. Like the wedding list. Think about it this way. It's like, if you didn't invite them to do if you didn't invite them to your wedding, you better damn do an appointment with them. I mean, shoot, if you think they are worthwhile, they're meaningful enough in your life that you would pay money for them to be at your wedding. You would buy them a plate of food. You'd buy them a spot to be at your wedding. Then I'm sure that you're worthy enough of them sitting down with them on Zoom for 30 to 45 minutes and them just hearing you out and helping you out with your presentation, and I get it. If they're not like, that's if you're like, if they're close enough that you would invite them to your wedding, I mean, gosh, they should be at least close enough to help you out to sit on Zoom with you for 30 to 45 minutes, with no obligation. And I just give you guys this example because the worst thing that happens is they say no. Let me tell you about the best thing that happens. The best thing that happens is you have someone like Nancy Bourne. Okay, Nancy Bourne was my 3rd grade teacher. Okay, by the way, I'm a senior in high school right now. So talk about awkward. You guys are like, I don't want to talk about teachers from last year. Like, how about from 7 years ago? Okay. And by the way, I wasn't like cool with her. I hadn't seen her since 3rd grade. I literally never spoken with this lady since I was like, about half the size that I was physically than I was at that point in time. And anyways, I call up Nancy Bourne. And I remember I had her phone number. I did not want to call her. My manager coerced me into calling her. He's like, who's that? I'm like, I don't even really know. And she's like, who do you know? How do you know her? I'm like, she's like my teacher. He's like, from what? I'm like, 3rd grade. He's like, oh, just call her. I'm like, dude, she doesn't even know who I am. Like, I just had her phone in a yearbook or like something like that too. I was like, I don't even know how. I think my mom had her phone number. And I was like, I don't think she's going to remember me. He's like, just call her. Anyways, I call her up. Okay. The phone rings. It's like, ring, ring, ring. And I remember her going, hello. And I'm like, hi, Mrs. Bourne. This is Andrew Evans calling. I'm not sure if my name rings a bell. She goes, Andrew Evans? And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, Andrew, like, well, like, what is up? Like, this is so, like, how have you been? Like, this is crazy. Like, I just saw your mom in Publix the other day. Like, how are things going? Like, it's such a random call. So we just caught her for a little bit. She's like, wait a second. So what are you calling about? I'm like, well, Miss Jones, I just started this, or Miss Bourne, I started this great new job showing Cutco. She goes, Cutco? She's like, Cutco, wait a second. Are you trying to do a presentation with me? And I was like, yeah, I am. And she's like, oh my gosh, perfect. Well, we love Cutco. What time do you want to come over? And I was like, perfect. Now, this is my 3rd grade teacher. Little did I know she lived in this like baller community that was in my neighborhood. It's called Jupiter Inlet Colony. I'd never been there before, but like she lived in a nice spot. Her husband was she was just a third grade teacher, but her husband was doing pretty well for himself. Okay. I don't remember exactly what he did, but I remember pulling up and being like, oh, damn. And I went on there, I did the presentation. You know, they already owned a set of Cutco. I sold her like $300, $400, nothing crazy. Okay. But here's what happened. At the end of that presentation, she ended up pulling out of her, her phone book for the area and in her neighborhood directory and gave me a list of 30 people that lived in her neighborhood and reached out and texted them all ahead of time. Okay. Now, I don't know exactly the neighborhood was a small neighborhood. And there was probably maybe 100 homes in this neighborhood, and I probably saw half of them. Okay. And I literally sold almost $40,000 to $50,000 in just that neighborhood alone worth of Cutco. And that, by the way, I didn't know anyone else in that neighborhood. It was just because she recommended me to all those people. And it got to a point where I'd like sit down at a customer's house. I'm like, oh, you probably know Sandy Mendenhall. Yeah, across the street. Yeah, so she barely cooks at all. So she got like the homemaker set, which is the basic one. Then you probably know Michelle Burt, right? Yeah, she probably has parties. Yeah. So she got the complete set naturally. And then we have people, that are a little bit more in between. Like your friend Carmen across the street. Like you know Carmen. All right, great. Yeah, she got like a signature set because she's got like 2 kids and cooks a little bit more. Which set did you want to get, Miss Jones? Okay, that's how my appointments were. I'm not even. There's no exaggeration in that. Like that's how they were, and this all came because I literally called a lady that I had never spoken to. And here's the thing about the acquaintances. Okay, they're oftentimes the ones that you're the most chicken to call. But when you get recommendations from your friends and family, a lot of times they're the same circles. Seeing the people that are outside of the realm of what's comfortable for you or what will give you things that are access to beyond what's, immediately in your comfort zone. Does that make sense to everyone? Like when you see people that are a little bit less comfortable, that's when you get the opportunities that are not right in front of you in your direct immediate situation and scenario. And a lot of times your biggest and best sales or your best recommendation lists will come from people that are acquaintances and people outside of there. So, my top tip to you all, okay, is number one, work through your gears correctly. Okay, there's a reason you start off seeing people really, really well. So you just focus on the presentation. Then you see people you kind of sort of know, of them, right? So it's not like you have to like win them over from the very beginning, but you're like deepening a relationship or a connection that's already there versus trying to make a brand new one from nowhere, right? A directors association is like, we don't have a connection. We don't have a relationship, but we do at least have something in common. Hey, I go to the same school as your son over at Columbus High School. Hey, I actually volunteer on the blank team with so-and-so too. Hey, I actually go to church with you, or hey, I actually graduated from, whatever. There's a mutual connection. Okay. Even though you don't know each other personally. And this is someone that there is no connection. There is no relationship. These are the hardest people to build a rapport with. So walking yourself through the gears slowly will allow you to build and develop the right skill set. It will also mean that by the time that you start seeing recommendations, you're going to have a ton of them. Amy Rad, she sold $100,000 her first summer, $100,000 her second summer. Her first week on the job, she had a couple hundred recommendations. And by the way, she came to me after, advanced training. Hey, Andrew, I got these recs. Can I call them? I said, no, don't call them yet. How many people do you still have in your list? She's like, I don't know, like 30 or 40. See those people first, then come see me. All right, cool. 2 weeks later, she hit me up and say, hey, Andrew, I have all these recommendations. Can I please call them now? And I'm like, did you see everyone on your list? She's like, yes, I've already seen everyone on my list. And I'm like, all right, cool. How about, you graduated from Lord's. How many Lord's moms have you seen? She's like, none. And I'm like, all right, go see the Lord's moms and then come back to me. 2 weeks later, she came back to me and she's like, all right, Andrew, I've seen them all. Okay. I'm like, how about your dad? He does all that clinical stuff. Have you seen any of his coworkers or people? She's like, no. And I'm like, all right, go see your dad's people first and then come back to me. Here's the thing. By the time that I allowed her to actually finally start calling recommendations, y'all want to know how many she had?
300.
No, it was almost 500, recommendations that she had after a month on the job. Okay. And I just shared that with you because Amy sold $100,000 that summer. And a big portion of that was just because she set herself up for a lot of success and she got a lot of those initial sales. Amy, by the way, was not Amy was not high average order. Her biggest sale, her first summer was $2,000. That was her biggest sale the whole summer. I had people that were outselling her. Like they dropped $5,000, $10,000 orders all the time, but Amy still sold more than all of them because she had more recommendations. She always had appointments lined up. She always had customers falling out of her ears. She just had so many people that she could go see. It was very easy for her to do the job and do the role and always have people coming in and out. So that I want to set you guys up for some long-term success. So a long-winded tangent here, but that's where I'm getting at, is that the 4 gears of Cutco. So I'm going to give you guys a couple kind of a quick assignments, but one of the assignments is to start expanding your list of who you have, coming into today. Your acquaintances is oftentimes your money list. So let me give you all an assignment and we'll revisit this.